Everybody, it's that time again. We're doing another predictions slash preview video for an upcoming Survivor season here on the channel. If you're new to the channel, just happen to be stumbling upon here, essentially this is a channel where we do a variety of stuff from movie reviews to podcasts to discussions and games. But a staple on the channel is every week I'm taking my friend Alec through Survivor for the first time ever from the beginning. As a big Survivor fan myself, taking him along spoiler free. That's a very big part of this dynamic, is that I'm taking him along for the first time, discussing episode by episode. You can see the highlights of our reaction each week, and then we do a season review at the end. We rank the season and the winner, and yeah, we just keep going through the seasons. And we just finished Tocantins, so we're up to our 19th season of Survivor Samoa. So essentially what these preview prediction videos are is giving my general thoughts on the season going into it, where I'm at with it, how I think Alec will take it, and making specific predictions as far as where he will rank the season, where he will rank the winner. A couple accolades he'll give out at the end of the season, which are pre-jury gem, which is his favorite player from the pre-jury, cutie of the season, and his favorite player of the season. So I'm going to make specific predictions on those, give you my general thoughts going into it. I'm also going to touch on season 20, Heroes versus Villains, as well. A couple things keep in mind with that, since that will be the next season on the horizon. I want to kind of like get the conversation going about that as well, since I know that's obviously top of mind for a lot of people. Alright, so Samoa is an interesting one in that this is actually the first season that my family and I watched live of Survivor, or period, that we watched of Survivor. So yeah, we were right there, born into Survivor in the Russell Hantz era, and started with Samoa, went from there, and then I since went back to the other seasons. So it's interesting in that way. This is also interesting in that this is one that's not as top of or fresh of mind as the other seasons we've gone through, for the most part. You know, there was Pearl Islands, which I hadn't seen when we watched that, and the odd season here or there. But this one in particular, like a couple years ago, I was watching some of the scenes I missed, which were like the Panama up into Tocantins era, and then I was just planning to continue on with some rewatches on these seasons. So I started Survivor Samoa, got a few episodes in, and then essentially I was like, you know what, I really want to get the Heroes versus Villains. I really want to rewatch that, so I jumped to that one and watched that. Watched Nicaragua, Redemption Island, South Pacific. And that's kind of where my rewatch sort of died off. I watched Caramoan, so it got a little messy after that. But my point being is that this season isn't as fresh to me. So more of a blind spot for me, ironically, with it being the first season I watched. Now the big thing with the season is that it's easily the most lopsided edit. One of the most, if not the most, in Survivor history, let alone within the first 19 seasons here. It's a standout for that reason. So in that way, I'm not sure what entirely it'll be interesting going into, because I'm not sure where I would put the season, honestly. So this will be interesting for me. But my instinct is that it won't be very high because of that edit, and the fact that when I look at the season, you got Russell Hantz, you got Russell Swan, you got Natalie White as the winner. Even her, she's like barely, like she's very understated in the edit. And then you have like, I guess, Shambo, but like no one else very memorable at all. It's just the Russell Hantz show, for better or for worse. And that's the interesting question going into this: is will Alec take to Russell Hantz or not? He's usually, in all the seasons we watch, he tends to like the strategist type, but Russell Hantz is he is the strategist, but he is not in that same archetype at all. You know, when you look at like a Kenny from Gabon, Stephen Fishback from Tocantins, Rob Cesternino, Todd Herzog, these kinds of players. Russell Hantz is also very strategic, but he's not at all the same vibe at all. So very abrasive, all that. The Russell story has been written over and over of why he ultimately is not ever a player that'll seal the deal in a Survivor season. He's missing that key component of the game. He just views people as chess pieces and nothing more. Doesn't have more of the emotional intelligence that you need. But I have to predict that his favorite player will be Russell Hantz. I have to say it. I can't imagine it being anyone else because, honestly, even if you hate the guy, it's like it's his show this season. So it's like, what am I going to say? I'm going to say Shambo's my favorite. I don't know. Maybe he'll surprise me, but I just don't think there's anyone there that's present enough to even rival that. We'll see. So Russell Hantz, I'll lock in as his favorite player. The pre-jury gem, this is interesting for me because I'm not super, I couldn't remember super well looking at the pre-jury, but my instinct is to go with Russell Swan. I don't know, but I'm going to go with him because he's the most memorable for me. And, you got the Russell and Russell. Double Russell, try it. Cutie of the season, who knows? I go with Natalie White. She's the winner. She's there the whole season. So it's a safer bet than any. And then as far as where he'll rank this season, here I'll throw up his current tier list after our most recent ranking of Survivor Tocantins. It really could go a number of different ways because Russell Hantz really did bring an energy to the show that was so different. In terms of seeing, we've seen people have dominant games before, but him truly doing the puppet master thing with no regard for anybody, it's a wild angle in the way that the show just leans all the way into it. This whole immunity idol thing, even just the immunity idol plays in general are completely different than what we've seen in Survivor past. So he could come away from it really liking that aspect, but there are glaring things that I'm sure we'll talk through throughout the season of the editing and just the overall cast that could bring it down for me. So it's tough. It could go anywhere from C tier up to B tier, Could even crack into A tier. I don't know. Maybe if he's liking it that much. But I'm saying for me, I'm going to guess the bottom of B tier. I don't know. Yeah, I'll put it at the very bottom of B tier on his tier list, which would make it number 11 out of 19. I'm curious to see. This is one that's really hard to predict, honestly. I mean, I thought Gabon was hard to predict, but I think this one's similarly. It's just got a lot of things going for and against it, and the fact that I'm not even sure where I come in on it makes it even harder. So I'll go with that. Bottom of B tier, number 11 out of 19. As far as the winner is concerned, Natalie White. She is very similar in how the season plays out to an Amber. She's definitely a lower tier winner. It's kind of hard to dispute that. You got a couple things going for her, which are her voting record, which I believe she might have voted correctly the most out of anyone in Survivor history. I think she voted correctly the most of any Survivor winner. I think this is a stat I heard recently on Rob Has a Podcast. I believe that's what the stat is. She's voted out of the winners the most correctly in the season because she went to so many tribal councils and voted correctly every tribal council she went to, I'm pretty sure. So that's impressive. But obviously it is very similar to the Jenna or the Amber story in that she's very much there in the alliance that dominates the game, but she's not really, spearheading anything. She's just kind of along for the ride for the most part. She's a couple strategic things, whereas she's purposely tagging along to Russell strategically, knowing that he'll be unlikable. That's an aspect obviously you can appreciate, but for the most part she's more of a passenger. And but it's still impressive the FOA 4 and what they managed to do in the season. It's a kind of a Tocantins-esque coming in without the numbers and making it happen and still being dominant. But as far as her as a winner, I'm gonna say it's got to be low. And again, it'll be interesting to reevaluate for myself as well, because I've always viewed her as a low tier winner. But I'll say for now, I'll say F tier, top of F tier, above Bob on his tier list, which would put her at number 16 out of 19. Yeah, that's gonna be an interesting one to place. These are all interesting. Like, I'm not confident on these at all. So that's as far as my predictions go. Let me know what you're thinking going into the season. How are you feeling? Are you excited for it? How do you feel about the season? Again, this will be so interesting to revisit. You know, the couple moments stick out to me from Survivor Samoa, but overall, it's more, you know, it feels like a distant past to me. You know, I guess the first couple episodes will be more acclimated to, but when we get into the later game, there might be stuff that I've forgotten about. And so, yeah, nothing's set in stone here, that's for sure. Now, like I said, I want to touch on heroes versus villains while we're here. I'm sure you're all excited for it. I know I am. You know, it's been always a milestone for me ever since we started, but more realistically, once we got to something like All Stars, it's like, man, I can't wait till we get to heroes versus villains. Even though it felt so far off at the time, it was like, if we can make it to heroes versus villains, I'll be happy. You know, that's a big milestone for me, was heroes versus villains. And so it's going to be hard to contain that excitement watching along Survivor Samoa, thinking about heroes versus villains. There's just so many moments in there that are so fun. Every episode there's something to sink your teeth into. Iconic, like, crossover of all the Survivor we've watched and built up on this channel. So it'll be monumental for sure. But I wanted to touch on something that people have been asking about, and that's to have Alec do a cast, what he would make for a heroes versus villains cast, similar to the one we did way back in All Stars. If you haven't seen that, you can check it out, where he assembled his all-star casts after watching the first 7 seasons. Here's the thing. Obviously, I'm always thinking about this stuff. I'm planning, what should we do? What should we not do? I ended up with Micronesia not doing a cast video like that just because of the way the format was. I want to hear your feedback. Please sound off below. But my instinct was to not do that for Heroes vs. Villains, and here's my reasoning. When I rewatched Heroes vs. Villains and I saw that premiere episode, everyone coming in the helicopters, the iconic cuts to different legends of the game, I was like, man, this hits so hard. And just imagine, like, wow, if you don't know the cast and this is how you're introduced to it, I feel like that hits even harder. So that idea kind of excited me to get the fresh reaction to, like, without having this preconceived notion of, like, here's my list that I wanted going into this, and just being surprised by who's there. And because it really is an amazing cast, minus a couple weird choices in terms of, like, who's on heroes and who's on villains. And there's a couple that aren't, like, immediate, like, definite, I would have put them on the cast, but for the most part it's an all-star stellar cast. And so I was thinking, if I had him make his own cast, would he have some people on there like Johnny Fairplay or Richard Hatch? I don't know. Rob Cesternino? I don't know. I'm just thinking, I don't want him to be disappointed with the cast, because that's really not how you should feel going into the season. But it's like, if you set up this list, like, this is who I would cast, and then you come in, it's like, this is what we get, and you're missing some of your favorites, I don't know. I would be like, dang, I don't want that to be the vibe. I don't even, and the fact, I don't even have to have him, like, in the mindset of, this is who I'm expecting to see. He probably will do that on his own, but to really specifically have him sit down, look through all the casts of the first 19 seasons to pick them out like that, he'll really be honing in on, and then it takes away kind of the shock factor and the fun freshness of it. So I'm leaning towards not doing the pre-season cast video, but I'm open to hearing your input. And do you disagree with what I said? I just think it would be so cool to go into the premiere be shocked by who's there, and then maybe even stop down midway through the episode or after the episode and talk about like who all is there, who we're getting introduced to. That's where I'm at with it, but please let me know below what you're thinking. Thank you for watching this video, and please subscribe to the channel for more Survivor every week, and stay tuned. Next week Survivor Samoa starts, and the Survivor Heroes vs. Villains hype train starts as well. Alright, leave a comment below with your thoughts, and take care.